Right. So today we're diving deep into ditching, just getting by, and stepping into a life where we can really thrive.
Okay.
We're cracking open Thriving, Not Surviving.
Okay.
A book that honestly grabbed me with its promise of not just positive vibes, but like a real game plan for making lasting changes.
Yeah. What's really fascinating about this book is how it takes those like familiar ideas, self-belief, facing your fears, and it really reveals the deeper why behind them.
Yeah.
It's like it hands you a flashlight to see the root system of your struggles, not just like trim the leaves, you know?
Exactly. It jumps right into how our beliefs, especially those we pick up early on, are like the foundation of a house.
Right.
And I'm not talking about just thinking happy thoughts, but those core beliefs about ourselves, about what we deserve. You know, the book argues these can impact everything from our careers to how we handle money to our relationships.
It's a lot more impactful than you initially realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way the author uses real stories, like brings it all home. Like there's this one about Peter who, even in his 50s, outwardly successful, still felt like deeply useless.
Right.
And it turned out it all stemmed from his father constantly saying he'd never amount to anything.
Yeah. It's amazing how those early messages, if we don't unpack them, they become those self-fulfilling prophecies.
It's like we're living out a script someone else wrote.
Exactly.
So how do we even begin to
So Thriving, Not Surviving argues that we need to first identify these limiting beliefs and then actively challenge them. And it's not about placing blame, but it's about understanding the source.
Okay.
So we can start rewriting the narrative.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we actually rewrite those deeply ingrained beliefs?
Right.
That sounds like a whole other challenge.
That's where the book's emphasis on choice comes in, right?
Okay.
It argues that even when life throws curveballs, we always have a choice in how we respond.
Okay.
And one of the core ideas that it presents is this model of 6 basic human needs.
Okay.
Certainty, uncertainty or variety, significance, love and connection, growth and contribution.
6 basic needs.
Have you ever thought about your needs in this way?
This was a new concept for me, I'll admit.
Okay.
But it feels so universal. It's like something everyone can relate to on some level. So tell me more about how this whole model works.
So the book gets into how these needs, while natural and positive, can actually fuel some not so great behaviors.
Okay.
Even addictions, if we're not careful.
Now that's really interesting. An addiction to a basic human need. So it's not the needs themselves, but how we try to meet them.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the author actually uses herself as an example. As a head teacher, she loved her work. It provided that certainty of routine, the variety of challenges, the significance of leading, connection with her staff and students, plus that constant growth and contribution.
She sounds incredibly dedicated. But where's the addiction come into play?
Right.
What was the downside of her fulfilling those needs through work?
So it became all-consuming. It was impacting her health, her relationships. She even mentions how her dedication was, in a way, her way of avoiding the emotional pain from her accident.
That's a really powerful insight that sometimes even good things, if they take over completely, can be a way to avoid dealing with tougher emotions.
And that's where Thriving, Not Surviving really clicked for me, right?
Yeah.
It's about being conscious of what's driving our choices. We need to understand how those 6 needs show up in our lives.
Okay.
Are our current approaches truly serving us, or are they just helping us survive instead of thrive?
This is making me think about my own habits in a new light. Like, I can get so caught up in work.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing it through the lens of these needs.
Right.
It's almost like once you understand these needs, you can spot yourself more clearly. Yeah.
And that self-awareness is a big part of what I appreciate about the book.
Yeah.
It encourages us to examine our behaviors and motivations honestly.
Right.
So we can actually create positive change.
It seems like that's a recurring theme throughout the book, this idea of taking ownership.
Yes.
We talked about the power of beliefs, the importance of choice, and now this whole framework of needs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that leads us to another key theme. The book explores the power of language.
Ooh.
The way we talk to ourselves, the words we use, it all has a huge impact on how we see ourselves and our ability to change.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by the power of language. So much of our inner dialogue, those stories we tell ourselves, are shaped by the words we choose. And it's not about like forcing positivity, but just being more intentional, more truthful with ourselves.
Exactly. Thriving, not surviving highlights how negative self-talk can become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
If we constantly tell ourselves, I'm not good enough, or I'll never be able to do that, our brain starts to believe it.
It's like we're setting ourselves up for failure without even realizing it.
Yeah.
So what's the antidote? How do we flip that script and start using language that empowers us instead?
It starts with awareness, like so many things.
Okay.
The book suggests tuning into our internal dialogue, noticing those negative patterns, and consciously reframing those thoughts with more empowering language. It's shifting from I can't to I can, or I'm not good at this, to I'm learning and getting better every day.
I love that. It's about focusing on progress, not perfection. Celebrating the small wins along the way, instead of getting bogged down by self-criticism. This book is really speaking to me.
And it backs it up with practical exercises.
Okay.
One that stuck with me was the idea of a powerful personal sentence.
Okay.
Like an affirmation that resonates with you and reinforces your self-worth.
Like a personal mantra that you repeat to yourself to kind of stay motivated, stay focused on your goals.
Exactly.
Okay.
The author shared hers. I am a powerful woman. I choose to be happy and fulfilled.
Wow.
It's about finding a statement that embodies the person you want to be and repeating it until it becomes ingrained in your subconscious.
Speaking your desired reality into existence.
Right.
I love that the book provides these concrete examples and actionable steps. It's not just like theoretical fluff, you know.
Absolutely.
And it gives you both the why and the how, which I think is so refreshing.
Yes, definitely.
Speaking of how, the book also talks about self-love and forgiveness.
Yes.
And this is where I think things can get tricky for people.
Yeah.
It's easy to, like, say, love yourself, but actually putting it into practice, especially when you're dealing with, like, negative self-talk, past hurts.
Right.
That's a whole other journey.
It absolutely is. And the book doesn't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
It acknowledges the complexities of self-love, especially when dealing with body image, past traumas, or even difficult relationships.
It's not about pretending everything's perfect.
Right.
But learning to, like, embrace our imperfection.
Yes.
And treat ourselves with that same kindness, like we would a close friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One practice the book actually recommends is making friends with your body.
Oh, great.
It involves consciously acknowledging each part of your body with gratitude and positive affirmations while you're showering.
Simple but powerful.
It is. Simple but powerful.
I remember that part.
Yeah.
It sounds so simple, but I can see how it would be powerful over time.
It's about shifting from that self-criticism to appreciation and acceptance.
Yeah.
And it extends beyond the physical.
Okay.
The book emphasizes caring for our emotional and mental well-being too.
So it's a more holistic approach to self-love.
Yeah, right.
Nurturing ourselves on all levels.
It's about recognizing that we are worthy of that love and care and making it a priority. Because, as the book argues, we can't truly thrive in other areas if we haven't cultivated that strong and loving relationship with ourselves first.
Like they say, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Precisely.
Right.
We need to refill our own wells before we can authentically give to others.
That's such an important message, especially in a world that often glorifies busyness and self-sacrifice.
Right.
So how does the book suggest we actually practice this self-care?
Yeah.
Especially if you're so used to putting everyone else first.
One strategy it emphasizes is treating yourself as you would a valued friend.
Okay.
Ask yourself, would you speak to a friend the way you sometimes speak to yourself?
Oh.
Would you let a friend neglect their needs the way you might neglect your own?
Those are powerful questions.
Right.
It's like holding up a mirror and being honest about whether we're extending that same kindness inward.
It's not selfish to prioritize our well-being. It's essential.
Yeah.
When we're feeling depleted, we can't show up fully for ourselves or anyone else.
Like that oxygen mask analogy, right?
Exactly.
You have to put yours on first before helping others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that leads us to another crucial aspect of self-care, setting boundaries.
Boundaries. That delicate dance between being helpful and spreading yourself too thin. It's something I think a lot of us struggle with.
It's so easy to say yes to everything and everyone,
right?
Even when it compromises our own needs.
And then we end up resentful, overwhelmed, burned out, the whole 9 yards. So how does the book suggest we start setting those boundaries?
All right.
Because saying no can be really hard.
It starts with recognizing our own limits and valuing our time and energy.
Okay.
The book emphasizes saying no gracefully but firmly without feeling obligated to give lengthy explanations.
It's about reclaiming our right to prioritize our needs without feeling guilty?
Yes.
Because sometimes we need to say no to others to say yes to ourselves.
Absolutely. It's a powerful act of self-love, recognizing our needs and well-being are just as important as anyone else's.
It's about shifting from scarcity to abundance. Believing there's enough to go around, but we need to be mindful of how we distribute our time and energy.
Exactly. Yeah. And that requires being honest about what truly matters, what brings joy and fulfillment and aligns with our values. When we're clear on those things, setting boundaries becomes less about deprivation and more about creating a life that feels aligned and authentic.
It's about designing a life where we can thrive.
Yes.
And I love how Thriving, Not Surviving provides a roadmap for doing just that. We've covered so much choices, self-love, forgiveness, setting boundaries.
Yes.
It's clear this book is about empowering us to step into our full potential and create a life that feels, aligned, joyful, and fulfilling.
It really is.
Yeah.
And speaking of fulfillment, that leads us to the final and perhaps most profound concept the book explores, the pursuit of purpose. It's about those big questions.
Yeah.
What is my contribution to the world?
Right.
What legacy do I want to leave behind?
Purpose, that deep desire to make a difference, to leave the world a bit better than you found it. I think we all crave that.
We do.
But finding it can feel daunting.
It can be. And Thriving, Not Surviving acknowledges that.
Okay.
It doesn't offer a magic formula for uncovering your purpose overnight.
Right. There's no cosmic neon sign flashing, "This is your purpose."
Exactly.
So how does the book suggest we even approach this search for purpose?
Right.
Where do we even begin?
It starts with introspection.
Okay.
Reflecting on our values, passions, and talents. The book encourages us to ask ourselves,
okay,
what brings us joy? What problems are we drawn to solving?
Right.
What impact do we want to make?
It's about connecting with that inner compass.
Yes.
That gut feeling that kind of guides us towards a meaningful life.
Yes. And the book stresses that our purpose doesn't have to be grand or world-changing.
Right.
It's about finding meaning in the everyday, the small acts of kindness, the connections we make, and how we show up in the world.
I love that. It's about infusing our lives with purpose rather than searching for it in some distant future.
Exactly. And that can be as simple as bringing more passion to our work, nurturing our relationships, pursuing hobbies, or finding ways to contribute to our communities.
It's about living authentically and purposefully. That's a really powerful message.
It is. It reminds us that we all have a unique contribution to make. We don't need permission to pursue our passions and make a difference.
It's about giving ourselves permission to shine.
Yes.
And that leads to another important point that the book makes. It's the interconnectedness of it all. Yeah. It's not just about our individual purpose, but recognizing that we're all part of something bigger.
Right.
And our actions have ripple effects.
Absolutely. Thriving, Not Surviving emphasizes that true fulfillment often comes from being of service to others.
Yeah.
Using our unique talents and passions to make a positive impact.
It's recognizing that we're all in this together.
Yes.
And even small acts of kindness can make a big difference.
Exactly. The book encourages random acts of kindness, looking for opportunities to brighten someone's day, even in small ways.
Oh, I like that.
Those acts of generosity not only benefit others, but they also fill us with purpose and connection.
It's like creating a positive feedback loop.
Yes.
Where giving and receiving are intertwined.
And it can be so simple. A genuine compliment, lending a hand, or just listening with empathy.
It's those small acts of grace that can make the world a little bit brighter. We've covered a lot in this deep dive already.
We have.
From the power of beliefs and choice to self-love, forgiveness, boundaries, and purpose.
Right.
And it's clear Thriving, Not Surviving is packed with insights to help us create lasting change and live more fulfilling lives.
It really is. It's a book that stays with you, prompting continued reflection and growth.
It's a reminder that we are all capable of living extraordinary lives, filled with purpose, joy, and connection.
Absolutely.
And it all starts with choosing to thrive, not just survive.
One thing that really resonated with me was the author's take on resilience.
Okay.
Like, it's not about pretending life is always perfect,
Right.
but about developing that inner strength to navigate the ups and downs with grace. It's a much more realistic approach than a lot of self-help books I read.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Life is full of surprises.
Yeah.
And it's not about if we face challenges, but when, right?
Right.
And I love how thriving, not surviving reminds us that setbacks don't have to define us.
Mm-hmm.
They can actually be these incredible opportunities for growth and transformation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the author, like, she walks the talk, you know?
Yeah.
Sharing her story of learning to walk again as an adult after that skiing accident.
Right.
It's such a powerful testament to overcoming adversity.
Her story blew me away.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been so easy to give up.
Right.
But instead of dwelling on what she'd lost,
Yes.
she focused on adapting and building a fulfilling life.
That shift in perspective from why me to what now
Yes.
is so powerful.
So powerful.
It's about focusing on our strengths and the possibilities that still exist even when things are tough.
It's about tapping into that inner well of resilience.
Exactly.
And the book offers some great strategies for doing that.
It does.
Like gratitude, mindfulness, self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried incorporating those into your own life?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gratitude helps me appreciate what I have, even on those tough days.
Mm-hmm.
Mindfulness keeps me grounded in the present moment.
Yeah.
Self-compassion allows me to be kind to myself, especially when I'm struggling.
It's not about being, like, positive 24/7.
Right.
But learning to acknowledge our emotions, even the difficult ones.
Yes.
In a way that feels both real and empowering.
And the book offers some really practical tools for processing emotions.
Okay.
The wash it away visualization, for example. Oh, yeah.
Is incredibly powerful for, like, releasing negativity.
That one stood out to me, too. It's like hitting the refresh button on your emotional state.
It's about creating space.
Yeah.
Allowing those difficult feelings to kind of move through us without getting stuck.
It's like we're not our emotions, but the observer of them.
Yes.
And that is incredibly freeing.
It is.
Yeah.
It allows us to respond to challenges with more clarity and resilience because we're not so tangled up in our emotional reaction.
It's the difference between reacting and responding.
Yes.
Right.
Rare.
When we react, we're often coming from a place of fear or insecurity, but responding allows us to bring our values and our wisdom to the table.
Right.
It's like choosing our battles rather than letting them choose us.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And that ability to respond thoughtfully is essential for not just surviving, but thriving in the face of adversity.
Right.
It's something I think we can all benefit from developing.
One thing I appreciate about thriving, not surviving, is it feels so relatable. It acknowledges that, like, relationships can be messy.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes.
Right.
Life doesn't always go as planned. You know?
It's a refreshing change from those self-help books that promote this image of constant positivity and effortless success.
Yeah, exactly.
Life is messy, and this book embraces that.
And it reminds us that we don't have to go through it alone.
No, we don't.
There's a big emphasis on connection and building a support system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The author even mentions her Thrive Together tribe, her online community, as a source of ongoing connection and support.
Yeah.
It highlights the power of sharing our experiences, the good and the bad, and how it can help us heal and grow.
It all comes back to that feeling of belonging, of knowing we're not alone in our struggles.
And that's so important.
Yeah.
Especially when we're facing those difficulties.
Yeah.
Knowing we have people to lean on who understand and support us can make all the difference.
You know, the book's discussion on fear really resonated with me. The author talks about how fear can keep us stuck in our comfort zones.
Yes.
Preventing us from going after what we truly desire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And she doesn't just offer those surface level solutions.
Right.
She digs deeper into why we experience fear and gives practical ways to work through it in a way that feels safe and empowering.
What really struck me was this idea that so many of our fears are rooted in this belief that we're not enough. Not smart enough, not talented enough, not worthy enough.
It's that nagging voice we all have, right?
Yeah.
It's whispering doubts and insecurities.
Oh, yes.
And it often stems from things we've internalized from childhood or societal expectations.
And it holds us back in so many ways.
It does.
It keeps us from taking risks, pursuing our passions, even allowing ourselves to be truly seen and loved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why the book's focus on self-love and acceptance is so crucial.
Right.
When we start believing we are enough, those fears start to lose their power.
It's about recognizing that our worthiness is inherent, not something we need to earn or prove.
Exactly. Yeah. And that shift in perspective can be incredibly liberating. It allows us to approach challenges with more courage and compassion, to take risks, to step outside our comfort zones, and to go after our dreams, even if it means stumbling along the way.
It's about embracing the journey of growth and self-discovery.
Yes.
Knowing that it's okay to make mistakes and learn as we go.
And that's what thriving is truly about.
Right.
It's not about perfection or avoiding challenge altogether.
No.
It's about showing up authentically, embracing our imperfections, and continuing to learn and evolve throughout our lives.
It's that beautiful messiness of being human, isn't it?
It is.
We're all works in progress.
We are.
And that's more than okay.
More than okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of those messy human experiences, the book also delves into the difference between perceived threats and actual threats.
Oh, tell me about it.
Right.
My mind loves to create those worst case scenarios.
Yes.
It's like a movie's playing out in my head.
Right.
Usually with a very dramatic ending that never actually happens.
It's something we all do, but thriving, not surviving, encourages us to become more aware of those thought patterns. Okay. It's about grounding ourselves in the present moment, distinguishing between real threats and those that exist only in our imaginations.
It's about taming that monkey mind.
Yes.
And focusing on what's actually true and within our control.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where those mindfulness practices we talked about earlier come in handy.
Right.
They help us observe our thoughts without getting swept away, creating a sense of calm and perspective.
We have a choice in how we respond to those fears.
We do.
We don't have to let them control us.
The book provides a whole toolbox of techniques for managing fear.
Okay.
Reframing thoughts, relaxation techniques, even knowing when to seek support from trusted friends or professionals.
It's about recognizing we have more agency than we often give ourselves credit for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are not victims of our circumstances.
Right.
We have the power to choose our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions, and ultimately the quality of our lives.
It's about reclaiming that power and stepping into our full potential.
Right.
That's an incredibly empowering message.
It is.
Yeah.
Thriving, not surviving provides a practical, inspiring roadmap for doing just that.
One thing that really stood out for me was the emphasis on authenticity, not trying to fit some mold or like external ideal, but embracing our true selves, quirks and all.
Yes.
What were your thoughts on that part of the book?
That really resonated with me too.
Yeah.
The book reminds us that when we're authentic, when we're true to ourselves, we attract the right people and opportunities.
It's about aligning our inner and outer worlds.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Living in a way that feels true to who we are.
And that's a recipe for genuine joy and fulfillment.
It is.
Because when we're being authentic, we're not trying to please others or conform to external expectations.
Yeah.
We're simply being ourselves.
Yeah.
And there's a real sense of freedom in that.
And you know what often goes hand in hand with authenticity? Vulnerability.
Yes.
It's about letting ourselves be seen, imperfections and all, and connecting with others on a deeper level.
It can be scary to let our guard down.
It can.
Especially if we've been hurt in the past.
Of course.
But the book reminds us that vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's a strength.
It takes courage to be vulnerable.
It does.
To embrace our imperfections and show up authentically.
And it's often in those moments of vulnerability that we experience the most profound connection and growth.
The author's story about the Tony Robbins seminar comes to mind.
Yes.
Remember how frustrated she was because her wheelchair made it hard to participate fully?
Yes.
Yeah.
But when she finally allowed herself to be vulnerable and ask for help, people were more than willing to support her.
Yeah.
It's a great example of how vulnerability can actually create more connection and opportunity.
It shows us that it's okay to ask for help.
It is.
That we don't have to do everything alone.
We don't.
And you know what else the book emphasizes?
What's that?
Playfulness.
Oh, I love that.
I was so surprised to see that in the self-help book.
Right.
It felt like a breath of fresh air.
It's not something we usually associate with personal growth.
Right.
But the author makes a strong case for bringing more joy, laughter, and lightness into our lives.
It's about reclaiming that childlike sense of wonder.
Yes.
Allowing ourselves to have fun, even amidst, adult responsibilities.
And she argues that it's not just about feeling good. It's actually essential for our well-being.
Okay.
Playfulness reduces stress, it boosts creativity,
right.
and it helps us connect with others.
It's about finding those simple pleasures.
Yes.
Dancing to our favorite music.
Yes.
Spending time in nature, engaging in hobbies, laughing with friends. It's about reminding ourselves that life doesn't have to be so serious all the time.
And that's a powerful message.
It is.
Especially in today's world.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance between responsibility and playfulness, between striving and savoring.
Thriving isn't about reaching some finish line.
Right.
It's about finding joy and fulfillment in the journey.
Exactly. It's about appreciating the small moments, celebrating the wins, and learning from the challenges. And you know what else contributes to that sense of thriving?
What's that?
Trusting our intuition.
Yes.
Yeah.
That inner voice that often knows what's best for us.
Yes.
Even when our minds might be screaming otherwise.
It's about learning to listen to that gut feeling, that inner wisdom that can guide us toward a more aligned and authentic life.
The book offers some great practices for strengthening our intuition.
It does.
From mindfulness to dream journaling to simply spending time in nature.
Right.
Anything that helps us kind of quiet the noise of the outside world and tune into that inner voice.
And it's important to remember that trusting our intuition takes practice.
Yeah.
It's like any skill. The more we use it, the stronger it becomes.
Speaking of things that take practice,
yeah,
the book also talks a lot about taking responsibility for our own happiness.
Yes.
It's so easy to fall into that trap of waiting for external circumstances to change before we allow ourselves to feel happy and fulfilled.
It's a recipe for unhappiness.
Yeah, it is.
Waiting for that perfect moment or someone else to make us happy.
Right.
Real lasting happiness comes from within.
The book reminds us that we have the power to choose our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions.
We do.
And those choices shape our experience.
It all comes back to that sense of agency we talked about.
Right.
We are not victims of our circumstances.
Yeah.
We have the power to create a life that feels aligned and fulfilling.
It's about recognizing that we are the artists of our own lives.
Yes.
We get to choose the colors, the textures, the composition, and we can always repaint if we don't like what we see.
I love that analogy.
Right.
And the book gives us the tools to do just that.
It does.
Setting goals, building healthy habits, practicing gratitude and self-compassion.
Yeah.
It's about taking action, even small steps, and moving toward a life we love.
And a big part of that is nurturing connection, right?
Absolutely.
We're not meant to do this alone.
We're not.
Right.
We all crave connection, belonging, a tribe of people who understand and support us.
And it's not always about finding new people.
Right.
Sometimes it's about deepening the connections we already have.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
The book encourages us to reach out, be present, and engage in meaningful ways with the people in our lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to be open to forming new connections as well.
Right.
Joining groups, attending events.
Yeah.
Striking up conversations with people who share our interests.
Right.
It's about being proactive and open to expanding our circle.
And you know what else the book talks about that I found incredibly powerful?
What's that?
Forgiveness.
Oh, forgiveness.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is often misunderstood.
That's what it is.
It's not about condoning harmful behavior.
Yeah.
It's about releasing ourselves from the burden of anger and resentment.
It's about acknowledging that holding on to those negative emotions only hurts us in the long run.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's not always easy.
It's not.
But the book offers some great suggestions for practicing forgiveness.
Okay.
Writing a letter to the person you need to forgive, even if you never send it.
Right. Yeah.
Or focusing on the positive aspects of the situation.
It's about shifting from blame and anger to understanding and compassion.
Yes.
Which is often a journey in itself.
And speaking of journeys, the book also highlights the importance of setting boundaries.
Oh, yes. Boundaries.
Right.
Which can be a journey of its own.
They can be.
Right.
Yeah.
Boundaries are so essential.
They are.
Yet so many of us struggle with them.
We do. It's about learning to say no.
Yes.
To things that drain our energy or don't align with our values. And prioritizing our own well-being.
It's about recognizing that we can't be everything to everyone.
We can't.
And it's more than okay to put our needs first sometimes.
It is.
It's not selfish, it's self-care.
It is self-care.
The book offers some great tips for setting boundaries.
It does.
Clear communication, practicing self-care, and making time for ourselves. It's about creating a life that feels balanced and sustainable.
Yes.
So we have the time and energy to pursue our passions and nurture our relationships.
Right.
It's about feeling nourished, not depleted.
And that sense of nourishment also comes from taking risks and stepping outside our comfort zones.
Ooh, that's where the growth happens, right? On the other side of fear.
Exactly. The book encourages us to be curious, try new things, and embrace the possibility of failure.
Yeah.
Because even failure can be a valuable learning experience.
It can.
It's all part of the journey.
It's about embracing the unknown.
Yes.
Knowing that we'll learn and grow along the way.
Right.
What's that quote?
Yeah.
Life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
I love that. It reminds me that real growth often happens when we're willing to embrace discomfort and challenge ourselves.
Speaking of things that can be challenging but so rewarding, the book also delves into the power of gratitude.
Gratitude is such a simple yet profound practice.
It is.
It's about shifting our focus from what's lacking to appreciating all the good that's already present in our lives.
It's about training our minds to focus on the positive, even when things are tough.
Exactly. And there are so many ways to cultivate gratitude.
There are.
Keeping a gratitude journal, reflecting on the things we're thankful for each day.
Right.
Or simply expressing appreciation to others.
And you know what pairs beautifully with gratitude?
What's that?
Self-compassion.
Oh, absolutely.
It's about being kind to ourselves, especially when we're struggling.
We all need a little self-compassion.
We do.
Especially in those moments when we feel like we're not measuring up or when we make mistakes.
It's about recognizing that we're all human, we're all doing the best we can.
Yes.
And we're worthy of kindness even when we're struggling.
The book offers some wonderful suggestions for practicing self-compassion. Offering ourselves words of encouragement, engaging in activities that bring us joy, and acknowledging our feelings without judgment.
It's about being our own best friend.
Yes.
Our own biggest cheerleader.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing that we're worthy of love and support.
Yes.
Starting with the love and support we give ourselves.
Absolutely.
And, speaking of being kind to ourselves, one of the things that really stuck with me from Thriving, Not Surviving was this whole idea of, collecting gratitude.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds almost like a game.
Right.
But it's actually a really powerful, mindset shift.
It is. It's so simple, yet so effective.
Yeah.
Instead of letting our minds dwell on what's wrong or what's missing, we actively look for things to appreciate.
Yeah.
Even those little things that we might normally take for granted.
It's like rewiring our brains for positivity.
Yes.
Instead of focusing on the one gray cloud, we're training ourselves to see the silver linings in that vast blue sky.
The author suggests making it a daily practice.
Okay.
Noticing those moments of joy, beauty, or appreciation throughout the day and really savoring them.
Okay.
It could be a warm cup of coffee on a chilly morning, a heartfelt conversation with a friend, or a moment of awe in nature.
She even suggests, picking 5 gratitudes at the end of each day.
Yes.
And reflecting on them before bed. What a great way to end the day on a positive note, right?
Yes.
It's like tucking your mind in with happy thoughts.
Exactly. It's about shifting our perspective from scarcity to abundance.
Yeah.
Recognizing and appreciating all the good that's already present in our lives.
It's so easy to get caught up in that not enough mentality.
It is.
Especially in today's world, right? Not good enough, not successful enough, not thin enough, not rich enough.
Right.
It's a never-ending cycle.
It's a constant barrage of comparison, which can leave us feeling, inadequate and unhappy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Thriving, Not Surviving reminds us that we already have everything we need to be happy. It's not about acquiring more. It's about appreciating what we already have.
Yes.
That's a message I think we all need to hear.
I couldn't agree more. Now, one thing that really surprised me, and I'd love to hear your take on this, was the connection the author made between playfulness and personal growth.
Oh, I loved that part.
Yeah.
It's not something you typically see in self-help books.
Right.
But she made such a compelling case for bringing more joy, laughter, and lightness into our lives.
Yes.
It's so easy to forget to play when we're so focused on achieving and striving.
It is. She argues that playfulness is essential for creativity, innovation, and even resilience. It's about giving ourselves permission to be silly, to experiment, to try new things without that fear of judgment or failure.
It's about tapping back into that childlike sense of wonder that can get lost in the shuffle adult life.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be dancing to your favorite music, spending time in nature, doing something creative, or just laughing with loved ones.
It's about those moments of pure joy that nourish our soul.
Yes.
And remind us that life isn't always meant to be so serious.
Well said. You know, another really important theme in Thriving, Not Surviving is this idea of recognizing our own worthiness.
Yes.
It's about really believing that we are deserving of love, happiness, and success just as we are.
It's about silencing that inner critic,
Yeah.
that voice that tells us we're not good enough, that we have to, earn our worth.
Yes, because true worthiness comes from within. It's not something we have to earn or prove. It's our birthright.
And the book offers some great practices for, cultivating self-worth.
It does.
Like self-compassion, setting healthy boundaries, and celebrating our strengths and accomplishments.
It all boils down to recognizing our own value and treating ourselves with the same kindness and respect we would offer to someone we love deeply.
Speaking of love, one of the most powerful parts of the book for me was the discussion on interconnectedness.
Yeah.
It's that reminder that we're not isolated individuals, but part of a larger web of life.
It's a humbling thought, isn't it?
It is.
Knowing that our actions, our words, our choices have ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves.
It makes you want to be more mindful of how you move through the world,
Absolutely. The book encourages us to consider the impact of our choices on our families, our communities, and even the planet as a whole.
It's about recognizing our responsibility to each other and to this beautiful, fragile planet we call home.
And it's about using our unique gifts and passions to make a positive difference, however big or small.
Right.
Because even the smallest acts of kindness, compassion, and generosity can have a ripple effect.
Imagine the world we could create if we all kind of embrace that philosophy.
Now that's a world I want to live in. Another point that really hit home for me was the emphasis on aligning our actions with our values.
Yes.
Right.
It's about living a life that feels authentic and meaningful, not just chasing some external measure of success or happiness that society dictates.
Exactly. It starts with getting clear on what's truly important to us.
Right.
What are the values that light us up? What kind of impact do we want to make on the world?
And then having the courage to make choices that reflect those values, even when it's not always the easy path.
It's about creating a life that feels uniquely our own, a life that resonates with our deepest passions, our purpose, and our values.
Yeah.
As we kind of near the end of our deep dive into Thriving, Not Surviving, I'm so struck by the author's message of hope and possibility.
It's a reminder that we are all capable of living extraordinary lives, lives filled with joy, purpose, and connection.
Absolutely.
It's a call to action, an invitation to step into our full potential and embrace the journey with all of its twists and turns.
Yes.
So, to our listeners, as you go about your day, we leave you with this question. What choices can you make today to create a more thriving life for yourself and for those around you?
How can you infuse your days with more joy, more purpose, more connection?
And what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
Remember, the power to create a thriving life rests within each and every one of us.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep thriving.